Hello guys, welcome to this channel DocMED. I'll be going to teach you pharmacology of autonomic nervous system. So let us start with the introduction first. So our nervous system is divided into two parts. It is central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Our peripheral nervous system is again subdivided into two parts. One is autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system is involuntary. It's not under our control. Whereas somatic nervous system is under our control. It's voluntary. Okay, and this autonomic nervous system is again subclassified into two parts. That is sympathetic system and parasympathetic systems. Okay, now this chapter from we'll be dealing with autonomic nervous system mainly in this lectures. So you know very well that sympathetic and parasympathetic, like sympathetic secretes adrenaline, whereas parasympathetic secretes neurotransmitters involved in these are this thing, acetylcholine. So we'll be learning basically in depth of these parasympathetic as well as sympathetic. So we'll start with mainly with parasympathetic first, cholinergic system. Okay, we'll start with cholinergic system. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter in the cholinergic system. Cholinergic system. Acetylcholine is the main neurotransmitter. So neurons which synthesize acetylcholine are called as cholinergic neurons by the name itself, cholinergic neurons. So now let us understand how these acetylcholines are secreted, like how it is synthesized and secreted. So we will learn the synthesis synthesis of acetylcholine. So as per our this thing, let us take this diagram first. So choline is choline enters the cholinergic neuron. This is a cholinergic neuron, and it is a carrier-mediated transport. It is carrier-mediated transport. So since you know mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and it is involved in various metabolism and as examples like pyrolysis and glycolysis and all is that right. So at the end product of after pyruvate, it enters the Krebs cycle and it forms acetyl CoA. This acetyl CoA combines with acetyl CoA combines with choline in the presence of choline acetyl transferase enzyme. In the presence of choline acetyl transferase enzyme. So what happens? This choline is transferred to the acetyl. This transferase means. Hence it forms acetylcholine. And this acetylcholines are present inside the vesicles in the terminal part of the neuron. They are present in the vesicles. And whenever they are whenever action potential happens, they are secreted over here in the neuromuscular junction or to the other cholinergic receptors of the neurons. Okay. So now once this acetylcholine is released over here, we will so this is the synthesis of acetylcholine. This pathway. This pathway is a synthesis of acetylcholine. Now once acetylcholine is synthesized, now what happens? There's an enzyme known as choline esterase. By the name itself, esterase means breaking down. Esterase means breaking down. So what happens? Acetylcholine gets hydrolyzed, hydrolyzed to again choline and acetic acid. And this choline is again taken up by this, again it goes and taken up by the neuron for the synthesis of acetylcholine. So based on this cholinesterase, there are two types of cholinesterases. There are two types of cholinesterases. One is true cholinesterase, true cholinesterase, and pseudocholinesterase, also known as false, you can tell, but pseudocholinesterase is a technical term. So these true cholinesterases are found in the cholinergic, they are found in the cholinergic neuron. Then we can tell it's found in the ganglia. It's found in the RBCs. Then it's found in the neuromuscular junction. And it rapidly hydrolyzes, this rapidly hydrolyzes acetylcholine. Whereas pseudocholinesterase hydrolysis is slow. It takes time for hydrolysis. This is present, pseudocholinesterase is present in liver, plasma, and glial cells. So now we know how acetylcholine is formed. Acetylcholine is formed, then how these are hydrolyzed. Now we'll learn about the receptors where it goes and acts. So there should be something where it goes and acts. So receptors, receptors of acetylcholine. So receptors of acetylcholine is classified into two types. One is muscarinic and nicotinic. So these receptors are really important. You need to keep in your mind, like anytime if someone asks you, you have to be ready to tell these receptors their locations. So based on these locations only, it regulates the other systems like the respiratory system. In bronchial asthma also these receptors are there, and many more places are there. Okay. So let's classify muscarinic receptors. Muscarinic receptors are of five types: M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5. So now we should learn about this thing where and all these are present. So M1 receptors, these are present in gastric glands, autonomic ganglia, present in the CNS, you can tell basically, and in the CNS it's present. Okay, and M2, M2 should be like cardiac specific. It is so it is only present in the heart. M2 receptor, M2 receptor is only present in the heart, and M3 receptors. M3 receptors are present in the smooth muscles. Smooth muscles like vascular endothelium consist of smooth muscles and exocrine cells, exocrine glands. Then we have endothelial cells, and so on. So M4 and M5 are present in the cerebral arteriole and CNS. Okay, so I'll tell you about nicotine receptors in the further lecture. Now let's understand our muscarinic receptors. What's the function of each and every receptor? We'll learn now. So muscarinic receptors. First, we'll learn about we'll classify them as like this way: muscarinic muscarinic actions, or not. So we'll see by system wise, okay? Under cardiovascular system, I said in heart has which receptors? M3 receptors. So what happens? Acetylcholine acts on the heart and it stimulates the. Okay, my bad. I have made a mistake. So M2 receptors you need to know. So it goes and stimulates the heart and stimulates the receptors of heart and opens the potassium channel. It opens the potassium channel and resulting in hyperpolarization. Due to hyperpolarization, which results in uh, SA node and AV node activity is reduced. You're getting my point, right? See, it opens the potassium channel. So, in action potential, sodium is that when sodium comes inside the neuron, it leads to depolarization due to which action potential is produced. When potassium again comes inside, it happens repolarization, after which hyperpolarization happens in the action potential curve, you remember. So, SA node and AV node activity is reduced. So, there's repolarization, hyperpolarization is that, due to which it leads to decreased heart rate. Decreased heart rate, and due to decreased heart rate, what happens? There is a decreased cardiac output. Decreased cardiac output leads to decreased peripheral resistance. Due to decreased peripheral resistance, then what happens? Ultimately, there will be decrease in BP. So whenever acetylcholine acts on M2 receptors of the heart, this is the mechanism. Okay, and we can tell our vagus nerve. Vagal stimulation leads to acetylcholine release. So now we'll see second place, smooth muscles. Smooth muscles. So as I said, smooth muscles are present in smooth muscle consist of M3 receptors and exocrine glands and endothelial cells also there. So smooth muscles. So smooth muscles are present in the GIT, urinary bladder. Urinary bladder has this thing, smooth muscles. Then bronchi. This is really important. You need to remember this, bronchi. Bronchi has smooth muscles. So let's tell you in one thing in detail. Let's first see. We have even in the blood vessels. I said right, endothelial cells. Endothelial cells has smooth muscles. So in blood vessels, we'll see first. In blood vessels, we have which receptor? We have M3 receptor, smooth muscle receptor. So what happens whenever acetylcholine acts on these receptors? it leads to the release of nitric oxide, otherwise known as endothelial-derived relaxing factor. What is that? Endothelial-derived relaxing factor. Endothelial-derived relaxing factor. Okay, which leads to relaxing. By the name, you can tell it leads to vasodilation. Due to vasodilation, there is decrease in BP. So this basically it decreases the peripheral resistance, due to which there is decrease in BP. Okay, this is about the blood vessels. Now we'll see about the GI tract. In GI tract of here only we'll do it. That's not space. The GI tract. So what happens in a GIT? Let's take this one as just a tract we'll take. Okay. So what is this acetylcholine does to our GIT on stimulation? It stimulates which receptor? We have M3 receptor. So keep revising these receptors. It will be really helpful. So it increases the tone of the gut, decreases the tone of the gut. So due to which there is increase in the peristalsis, peristaltic movement. Due to which even it releases the GI secretion, increases the GI secretion. And in we have one more thing now here. Let me correct this. So acetylcholine increases the acetylcholine relaxes the sphincter and it may cause defecation. I'll tell you everything in detail, but right now you just remember these things, like acetylcholine on blood vessels causes release of nitric oxide, which leads to vasodilation, leads to decrease in BP. So acetylcholine, just remember, it decreases the heart rate on cardiac stimulation. It opens potassium channels, AV node, or activities that used, and heart rate is decreased. Same way. So here also, whenever there's acetylcholine that which stimulates the GI, it causes defecation. Same on urinary bladder. It causes what it happens. It helps in urination. We'll see this first. So we have this is it has a detrusor muscle. This is a detrusor muscle. Okay, and it whenever acetylcholine is acts on this one, there is M3 receptor over here. So it acts on M3 receptor over here and causes contraction. Contraction. So whenever this contracts, urine inside. Is that right? Urine inside. Whenever it contracts, urine comes down, and over here we have a sphincter. Okay, there's a sphincter over here, and it also contraction of detrusor muscle and relaxation. Relaxation of the trigone and sphincter. Relaxation of trigone and sphincter, and causes urination. Okay, so these things and all, now we are done with GIT, urinary bladder, blood vessels. Now we have bronchi. So bronchi is really important. So in the bronchi, what happens? Let's make a figure. So whenever acetylcholine acts, bronchi also, it has N receptor only. Okay. Whenever acetylcholine acts on it, what happens? It causes bronchospasm. That is contraction of bronchial smooth muscle. Bronchospasm means contraction of bronchial smooth muscles. Contraction of bronchial smooth muscle. Therefore, what happens whenever there's contracted bronchial smooth muscles in it? It causes increase in tracheobronchial secretion. Therefore, these acetylcholines are contraindicated. So these are contraindicated in bronchial asthma, because in bronchial asthma there's bronchospasm. Since there's bronchospasm, and if acetylcholine goes and acts out there, it causes even more bronchospasm, increased bronchial secretion, and there's decreased oxygen, and it may lead to death. Not may lead, it will lead to death at last if so much is happening. Bronchial asthma. Okay, these are the important things, main things. We did smooth muscles and M3 receptors in the exocrine glands and in endothelial cells. I've said about the blood vessels in the blood, this under blood vessels. Exocrine glands. It increases GI secretion. It increases salivation, increase in gastric secretion as GI secretion comes. It comes under that. Increases salivation, increases gastric secretion. Everything happens in this. Okay. Now we have one more. There's also a common thing. So this is a little bit complicated. You need to know. We have in eye. Okay. Not that complicated, but yeah, we have in the eye. This is a sphincter pupillae. Sphincter pupillae, and which is mediated by M3 receptors. Okay, these are all mediated by M3 receptors. Sphincter pupillae. It causes constriction. Okay, constriction means when it contracts, it causes this thing. It leads to smalling like that. It causes meiosis. Okay, and we have over here dilator pupillae also with it. This is a muscle. Dilator pupillae. By the name itself, it causes dilatation. So this one causes dilatation of the pupil. Okay, dilatation. This causes constriction. This causes dilatation. So dilator pupillae is supplied by the alpha 1 receptor. I have not spoken yet about alpha 1 receptors, but remember right now. There are only receptors, are there few receptors you need to remember for pharmacology. And so I have spoken about the all the receptors. Bronchi also is done. So now we are left with the nicotinic receptors. So nicotinic receptors, let us classify here only. So nicotinic receptors are of two types. One is NM and NN. Before it was N1 and N2, but now they have named it as NM and NN. So NM is present at the neuromuscular junction. Okay, NM and NN. Okay, NN is present in the adrenal medulla, so causes adrenal secretion and all. CNS, whenever stimulated, causes adrenal secretion and all. CNS and autonomic ganglions, you can tell. So let us end.